What is the worst reason to break up with someone?
Story 1. You think they're too good for you. I left my boyfriend 4 years ago for this reason. Missed him ever since. Messaged him last week, sent him a photo of the plushie he gave me. Said I missed him and I've never been able to stop thinking about him. I didn't really expect a response. He messaged me back. We got back together 3 days ago, but today he leaves on an overseas trip for almost 3 weeks. I can't go too last minute and I lost my passport somewhere years ago, so I'll be seeing him off. I know we just reconnected and it's only going to be a couple of weeks, but it hurts again. But I know I'm so lucky he took me back in the first place, but I love him so much and I already miss him again. I'm so glad everything worked out, but why did you think he was too good for you? He's just doing so well. He's completely self-sufficient and functional, studying, working, and having similar hobbies as me, do-it-yourself stuff, gaming, but he still manages to find time for me. Me, damaged, depressed, maybe just downright lazy, and a ball of anxiety to boot. I was actually living in a youth shelter at the time when he and I met because my previous ex-girlfriend and I lost my job, defaulted on rent and lost our condo. Spent all our money on her weed because she needed to use it for pain management or something. I used to believe it, but now it's really hard because she would never even clean up after herself. But then she would go on to walk 10 miles in the summer for weed. He had himself in a far better position than I did, and still does despite the challenges of everything he did, and I felt like a leech every time he took me out and paid for something, or I'd stay over with him but didn't have any place to invite him to myself. I really struggled with something as simple as finding a real steady job. I'm not unskilled. I've done a lot of different things, mechanical, electronic, CAD, a little bit of programming, but I've never done them in a work setting, so I can't exactly claim years of experience. Feels like such a waste of time. For every job I apply to, there will be a dozen better applicants with less holes in their resume and more experience and more charisma, less anxiety. All my money comes from doing odd jobs and running errands for my housemates. I still don't pay for my rent, I don't make nearly enough, so I'm in a program that covers it. The more I think about this, the more it seems like a bad idea again. The last thing I want to be is just a burden, but I can't let him go again. We work so well together. I make things on paper, he makes them real. That's enough. I've really got to get going. It's almost time to catch him at the station. I don't know you, but you don't sound lazy to me. You sound like you have a brain that's always sticking its foot out to trip you with its funky dopamine bungling ways, but that you're also smart. Nobody learns CAD by accident and without having a decent reason to. And with the right support, you could do a whole lot more than you know to give yourself credit for. I think being with someone who loves you where you are, sees you with all your imperfections, and loves you exactly the way you are, that's the dream. If you think highly of your fella, trust his judgment. He sees something in you. You're gonna sass him for his smart butt seeing in you something he loves and thinks is worth his attention and care? Regardless of where you are in life, what you do for a living, you have worth. You have an inherent worth totally independent of your capitalistic value. You have worth as a human being with a whole lot of stuff to give that has nothing to do with your capacity for making money. He probably sees stuff in you that he hasn't found anywhere else in anyone else. You're special. Don't let your brain trip you up again. You are a human being and you're worthy of love. And it sure seems to me that someone else really must see that if he's so receptive to getting back together with you after all this time. I hope the next few weeks fly by. Thank you, dear stranger. I'm doing what I want to say is my best, but I also really hope it's not truly my best. He and I, well, we'll still be talking throughout, but we still have quite a lot more catching up to do when he gets back. I wish I had more to say, but at this point I'm texting on a bicycle, so I'd probably best put the phone down. You're doing your best with what you have at this time. At some point, you may have more or different stuff that might change what your best translates to in practical, tangible terms. Stay safe. Yeah, truly, folks, I think that there's a difference between wanting to, improve yourself and be in a good place for a relationship and thinking that someone's too good for you, though. Because that's not how that stuff works. Sometimes you do have stuff that you need to prioritize and work on before you focus on trying to find and get a relationship. But when you're in a relationship, if someone sees, the good in you and they're happy with you, they've made that choice for a reason. they don't think that they're too good for you. They might think you're too good for them in some regards. And like other people have said way better, you have value beyond just the money you make and all that other stuff. It really just sounds, yeah, like you're kind of getting in your own way, and you're probably a lot more capable and stuff than you realize. You just need the time to get that stuff figured out, but it doesn't mean that you can't have a really satisfying, wonderful relationship with this person in the meantime.
Story 2. You're worried what others will think of you for dating them. I knew a guy who broke up with a girl he adored because his friends started calling him a chubby chaser. Frankly, I thought she was adorable and maybe 30 pounds overweight at the most. But more importantly, she made him happier than I'd ever seen him. I felt as bad for him as I did for her when he broke up with her. He said she told him, "I thought you were better than this. I'm disappointed in you," when he told her they should stop seeing each other. Damn, if that didn't wake his dumb butt up, nothing will. Can I assume there was no happily ever after for these two? They were apart and he was miserable for about 6 months. Another guy kept asking her out, but she wasn't interested. She was obviously still hung up on my friend. One of our mutual friends told her, "I swear, the nanosecond you go out with another guy, your jackbutt ex will come running back with his tail between his legs." They were wrong. It took 2 dates before my friend begged her to take him back. They are very happy now, though. I'm chubby, was in a gay bar, and this guy was hitting on me. At one point he said, "I don't care what my friends say, I think you're hot." His friends did not like chubby guys, but he obviously did. They kept pulling him away from me. He was cute, but I could see his friends' opinions weighed heavily. When they pulled him away for the 5th time, I decided to leave. As I left, I said to one of his friends, "You guys are crappy friends. You're not into big guys, but he obviously is. You don't care that he'll end up alone or unhappy. I feel sorry for him that you are his friends." I hope that he learned that his friends weren't really his friends and that next time something like that happens, he needs to use his voice. That's a shame he chose to leave her over that, but she deserves a boyfriend who will value her enough to tell people to knock it off when they speak disrespectfully about her. There was a guy who used to bully me. No one really bullies me ever, so... And I said, "Good for blank, he got his first girlfriend." And he said, "Ew, she's so disgusting. She's a bit overweight, like 35, 45 pounds. Needless to say, that was the final straw. I cut him off right quick. Very toxic human being. In my younger days, I had a couple of times, 3, needed to end dating someone because I'm black, and the parents really struggled with that. I'm raised in Europe in a pretty all-white rural society. Even though perfectly integrated, speaking the language, well-educated, or never got in trouble with the law. I had a couple of times their parents just plain rejected me even before they even met me, just not giving it a chance, just nope. The worst was when I was 18 or 19. The father was totally okay, but being a cuck and overruled by the mother, who was a high school principal and very sensitive about appearance in society, she started to just punish her for dating me. Revoke allowance, constantly grounding her, and stuff like that. She basically made her own daughter her prisoner because of seeing me. Totally messed up. So yeah, I have broken up for all the wrong reasons.
See, the thing for me is, like, that first person in the story who it's like, "Oh, my friends were saying, kept talking about her being, chubby or whatever, calling me a chubby chaser." And so he listened to those friends. Like, I wouldn't want to date someone who thought the words of friends like that were that important and would stick around with friends who would talk like that about other people. Like, that says something about that person too. And that person, probably great in a lot of other ways, but they need to kind of figure their stuff out and not be, so beholden to these kind of crappy friends.
Story 3. Things are going too well, so you sabotage it. Oof, I tried to do this with my current partner. I'm a disabled DV survivor, and my abuser started abusing me after I developed a disability. He had me convinced that since he married an abled person, I was nothing but a burden after my disability developed. That he was a saint for not leaving me, thus I owed him a debt I could never repay. So much for sickness and health. Once I left him, and before I dated again, I shook the idea that I owed anything, but couldn't quite ever shake the burden piece. I met my current partner, we agreed to a no strings, no commitment, friends with benefits situation, and then accidentally fell in love. Whoops, LOL. I thought it would be different this time since I was disabled from the start, but we'd only been officially for maybe a month when I had a pretty significant cancer scare. I didn't tell him about the biopsy, and I tried to break up with him while waiting for the test results. He knew something was weird, so he gently pushed. Finally, I told him and said I couldn't expect anyone to put up with a disability and cancer. He said we could break up if I needed to, but I couldn't forget that whole putting up with thing. He would still be there holding my hand for every appointment because there was no way he was letting his best friend go through cancer alone. We decided to stay together, and thankfully, it was just a scare. The tests were negative, and we'll celebrate 10 years in December. As I heard it from a friend a long time ago, they're sitting, relaxing, having a good time. They've been together close to a year. In his head, wow, things are going great. I'm really happy. Out of his mouth, let's break up. Before I got diagnosed with ADHD, I had ended a couple relationships that were pretty much like that. Conflict, strife, drama, whatever is such an easy road to stimulation. The relationships were going well, so they were boring, which made me unhappy, and my brain had the bright idea it must be them that was causing it. Spoiler, it wasn't. I dated a girl who was a really good person, a good communicator, the intercourse was great, we supported each other, and just had a really high-functioning relationship. I got bored. It doesn't make sense, but I lost interest. It's like I could accurately predict how the rest of my life was going to go, and that made me lose interest. Around that time, my depression flared up hard, and I just imploded. I can relate to this. I sabotaged a pretty happy relationship during and after college because I was bored, and also very selfish. The relationship probably wouldn't have lasted anyway, but anytime he comes up, my family goes on about how nice he was, how funny, how kind, etc. That was almost 10 years ago. With my current relationship, things are mostly peaceful, but every once in a while we fight like cats and dogs. And at this point, that unpredictability is much less welcome. I just want something peaceful and secure and long-term. Story 4. Well, a dude once broke up with me because I moved apartments and it added 5 minutes to his trip of 15 minutes. It was you or those 5 minutes out of my toilet time. You had to go. My first apartment was a 20-minute drive to her place, although I drove to her more than she visited me. I moved within walking distance, hoping that we'd see each other more, but we broke up not long after. I moved back to my home state after the lease ended a year later. Story 5. Real story. The sister of a woman I know was diagnosed with breast cancer and needed a double mastectomy and chemo to survive it. Her husband told her if she cut them off and lost her hair, he would leave her. Well, she decided he was more important than her life. She died from metastatic breast cancer, and the bastard remarried a few months later to a woman with big breasts and long hair. I would say his threat to break up was the worst reason I ever heard. So tragic that her sister chose that effer over her life. You win. Of all the stories I've read while scrolling here on this crapper, this is by far and large the absolute worst of them all. Now I'm angry. I've never felt so angry towards someone I don't even know. Imagine thinking a woman's breasts and hair is what is important. He obviously didn't love her. But I just wish she was with someone who did and she would still be here. It pees me off that the last days of her life she wished she would survive, and that man made her feel that she needed to keep her breasts to make her life worth living. God, what a cruel end. And he'll never even care or think about being the reason she died. If anyone asks, he tragically lost his wife to cancer. I effing hate people sometimes. Yes, and same here. He's only about himself and will only be held accountable for what he did by her family cutting him off completely and sharing her story. My stepmom had a well-paying job in healthcare when she met my dad. She owned a house, drove a new BMW, and was raising 3 kids of her own. Fast forward 10 to 15 years, she gets an advanced stage colon cancer. She lost her job and had to go on disability. My dad presented her with divorce papers and said, "Well, now that you can't work, I guess I don't have any use for you." Joke was on him, though. She outlived him. Behold the absolutely heartbreaking decision women will make to please absolute a-holes.
Wow! Just starting off with the winner of like the grossest human being of the day award. What an absolutely atrocious mother effer. That man to say like, if you lose your breasts and your hair, I'm out of here. Like, I feel terrible for that woman. She, and yeah, a lot of us, we get into these relationships and we want to do anything for our partners. And sometimes these partners over years damage your self-worth and it's just hard for you to see. You're just stuck in the weeds of it. And it just breaks my heart that this guy, all in all, is a monster. And I just can't stand people like that who would, because it's not that one thing that he did to her. If she's in that position, I guarantee that he's done more, and to just drag her to that spot in her life. And I don't even have an answer for how you avoid that stuff. Talk to friends, listen to friends, evaluate the people you're with. No one deserves to be with an a-hole like that.
Story 6. I broke up with my 3rd grade girlfriend because she threatened to rat me out and tell everyone that I was a foot watcher while playing Thumbs Up 7-Up. Foot watchers are those that would peek at the shoes of the players walking by. She did end up snitching, and I just told everyone she was lying about it because she was mad about me breaking up with her. Okay, I'm hearing about it everywhere, but no one ever explains what is Thumbs Up 7-Up. It's a game we played in my elementary school class. Essentially, the transfer would take 7 students to the front of the classroom, and then the teacher would say something like, "Heads down, thumbs up, let's play 7-Up." Then everyone who wasn't at the front would put their heads down, close their eyes, and put their thumbs up. Then the people chosen would go around the classroom and would tap on people's thumbs, who would then put it down to prevent double selection. After all 7 had selected someone, everyone would open their eyes and try to guess who had selected them. If they guessed correctly, they would trade places. The game would repeat a few times. Haha, I was also a foot watcher. Sometimes I would get it wrong on purpose, though, just to throw people off. So many ways to cheat at that game. You could always tell a girl's touch from a guy's touch. You could always tell if it was your buddy, they would probably hit your thumb harder than others. Man, that game used to be the boobs. It was like the elementary school version of the exam from Naruto. If you weren't cheating, what were you doing? Story 7. I think the worst I've ever heard was when a buddy of mine got dumped because there was a food he really liked that his girlfriend could not stand, and they actually got into a huge fight over it, and she left and never came back. You can't have chicken noodle soup for the rest of your life. Over my dead body. That had to be an excuse, and a lousy one at that. Not necessarily. Curry is one of those love or hate things, and if you hate it, it's insanely overpowering. It sticks to your clothes, your walls, your cupboards, your dishes. Literally, your entire house will smell like curry. At least your entire kitchen and parts of adjoining rooms. This seems more like a doomed relationship. To use an example from my own life, I could never date someone who frequently ate corned beef. The smell is utterly repulsive to me. If I ever did try to date such a person, it would not last long. Should she have maybe approached this entirely differently? Yes, absolutely. Trying to forbid an Indian person from eating curry is insanity. I don't know a single one that hasn't eaten a curry a million times. But was this a flimsy excuse? Maybe not. Story 8. Ending it due to their astrology sign. Getting into a relationship because of someone's star sign is also crap. I'm a Pisces dating a Gemini. When we first started dating, we were looking up our signs and saw that supposedly Pisces and Geminis are a horrible pairing. We laughed and said, F the planets, we'll show them.
Okay, I know that there are going to be people who say like, oh, but astrology, it's just for fun and this and that. Can't you just go along with them? And like, but yeah, no, if they're ending it due to an astrology sign, they're, if you don't believe in that stuff, then yeah, no, look, if you don't believe in astrology and you're with someone who would end your relationship because of your astrological sign, in the long run, it probably wouldn't have worked out, like, regardless. I think there are just some differences there.
Story 9. One guy said no to a date with me because he hated my backpack. This was back in freshman year. High school or college? High school, haha. Good, laughed my butt off. Story 10. In high school many years ago, I was broken up with because her parents liked me. We ran into each other about a decade ago. We laughed, but not that hard. I always say that when kids, mostly girls, bring someone home that is obviously ridiculous, you don't get mad or try to keep them from seeing them. You do the opposite and become their new best friend. She will break up with him so fast. Story 11. They have a trait that you selected them on. Wanted someone to be a stay-at-home parent? Break up with them for having no career ambition. I wanted someone who loves to party and have fun, break up with them, and go out every night. Wanted someone for a casual fling, break up with them for having flings with other people. Wanted a military guy, break up with him for not being deployed. Wanted someone soft-hearted who takes care of the needy, break up with them for constantly bringing home strays. It seems like about half the letters you see in advice columns involve some version of this. The list could go on. You like a person because they're smart and well-educated, and you break up with them because they spend too much time reading books. You want someone who's strong or has a great physique, and you break up with them for spending too much time at the gym. You want a guy who cares about your opinion, and you break up with them for always asking what they think they should do. I feel like this happens often with men when they have children. Pick the women because they want to settle down and have kids, and then get mad when their wife acts like a mom. Like, yeah, crap is going to be different once you have kids.
I think some of this is people get excited about ideas, like these romanticized notions about stuff, and they don't actually think about what they connect with. It's like, oh, I want a, person who's like this, but they don't actually consider how they get along with that. They've just kind of romanticized it in their head or something. I don't know. I don't get this mindset. I don't think I've ever had a problem with this personally, but I'm also very upfront, and it has, for the most part, scared a lot of potential partners away. But it is what attracted Madam Fax to me, so it worked out in the end.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.